Alright, so in this video, I'm going to be explaining why many of you guys are answering a question wrong for mission figure 19B, build option 1. The question that you guys are answering wrong is this one right here, deciding which example below is the best use of rule number 2. As I walked around on Friday, I would say like 90% of you guys are getting this question wrong, actually. So if we look at this question, rule number 2 is to provide multiple examples to support your answer. Your text evidence must match your answer very clearly. So remember, our text is this one right here about immigrants marching to protest Trump's new policies. The answer, that's the correct one, the best use of rule number 1 is example 2, and almost 90% of you guys are getting this correct, actually. So answering the question in words first can't be immediately obvious or super simple. This is the rule number 1. I would say 90% of you are choosing example 2, which is correct. The author of the text wants the reader to understand how wide the support is for immigrants throughout the country. Given recent changes in U.S. policy led by Trump, people around the country have shown support for immigrants. So there's really two parts to that answer. How wide the support is, that means a lot of different people support immigrants. And then people around the country showing support, that means a lot of people are actually doing something to show support for immigrants. So when we get to best use of rule number 2, which is about text evidence and how your text evidence must match your answer very clearly, I would say 90% of you are choosing example 1, which is actually wrong. The correct answer is example 2. Let's look at them a little close. Now in example 1 it says, perhaps the best evidence for showcasing the widespread support for immigrants is when the author says, many businesses clothed in solidarity in a nationwide protest called a day without immigrants, which included activities and rallies in several cities. That first quote is perfect, and it does support answer choice 2 up here. First quote is perfect. And if you just stopped and only read the first quote, you probably would say example 1 is best. But when we look at the second quote, this text evidence, along with when the author says the boycott was aimed squarely at President Trump's efforts to crack down on immigration, that second quote doesn't really have anything to do with our correct answer up here. It's just telling us why the protest exists, not how wide the support is or people around the country showing support. So the second quote, for example 1, doesn't really have anything to do with our answer. In example 2, we have perhaps the best evidence for showcasing the widespread support for immigrants is when the author says, immigrants around the United States stayed home from work. Perfect. That supports our answer up here. And this text evidence, along with when the author says the boycott was aimed squarely at President Trump's efforts to crack down on reading the wrong one. My bad. Example 2. This text evidence, along with when the author says organizers said they expected thousands to participate or otherwise show their support. That means both quotes, immigrants around the U.S. stayed home from work, and organizers said they expected thousands to participate or otherwise show support. Both quotes for example 2 support our answer. In example 1, only one quote supports our answer. In example 2, both quotes. That means example 2 is best. So you have to make sure, when you are asked questions like this on the STAR test or by me, you have to make sure you're reading all of the text evidence. Otherwise, you're going to get tricked up. So read all the text evidence, decide which is best. It's pretty obvious that example 2 is best. Even though example 1 has a really, really solid first quote, the second quote has nothing to do with our answer.